You're like me, starting with a drink of something and a big wet swallow before the
I've got
episode
two
starts.
two water bottles, and the mission is to have them both down by the end of this thing.
Well, I ran some 800s outside yesterday,
Oh,
testing out some Hyrox shoes. And do you know what my first, middle, and last thoughts were during that workout?
well, can I ask just like one or two qualifying questions?
After this, yes.
Okay, so what was your thought, the beginning, middle, and end of that workout?
Really glad I don't have to run a marathon in this.
Oh, was it pretty hot or what?
It was so humid.
Yeah.
Now, it ended up raining, and then life was great after that. But I was dripping just sitting in the car, tying my shoes before the interval started.
It's been sticky. Although I will say, like that 3 minute 800 time domain is I feel like one of the more painful interval. It depends how they're running their run, but they can
Yeah.
be quite painful and difficult. I feel like I dread 800s more than I dread miles, for example, or quarters. 800s for me is a weird
Yeah.
distance because it's the right combo of like I got to sit in it, but I also need to run. I need to feel sting.
I would say normally yes. Yesterday, I ran 6 by 800 at the pace I would like to run 3 by mile at, like 6 weeks from now.
What pace is that?
Like 257 to 259.
Okay.
Just
You probably
like, in theory, current Hyrox pace.
hmm.
And eventually it'll be 6 by a mile, but it was 800s at like right around threshold right now for me pace. So it was not a stingy workout.
I bet you the heart rate drift, the cardiac drift on the back half of that was pretty hot. And then if you did a cool down after, I bet you it was just 10 to 15 beats a minute higher than it normally would be at that pace.
Again, you're right. It would have been, but I warmed up and cooled down on the treadmill.
Oh,
Then I drove to the bike path to do the work, and I was doing out and backs to work on 90-degree and 180-degree turns, and I was testing a different Hyrox shoe every 2 reps. So it was 30 seconds rest, 90 seconds rest, 30 seconds rest, 90. So I would do 2 in the shoe and then change shoes. So the drift didn't happen because I was running not hard and I was taking extra rest every 2.
What
This
shoes
was a
were you?
baby workout.
What shoes were you playing with?
The control shoe was the Alpha Fly 2. And then the 2 I was testing against each other are the Rebellion Pro 3 by Mizuno, the ones you sent over, and the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2.
What did you think of the Elite 2? Very curious.
They are, every single facet of that shoe is like borderline phenomenal. And it all adds together to a shoe that's very good for me.
Okay.
I think for other people, they could be phenomenal. But for me, it's one of those where it's a great shoe, but the sum of the parts are greater than the whole for this shoe for me. It changes how I run a little for the worse, where the Mizuno changes how I run a little for the better. So I have no complaints about any component of the shoe, and the foam is the softest foam I've ever felt, but it still allows you to pop off the ground. So it's not mushy, but it is so soft and light. It's unreal.
What shoe of the 3 for you stands out? You have to pick for tomorrow. Tomorrow's race day for Hyrox.
Oh, it's going to be the Rebellion without a doubt.
Okay, half marathon on the roads. Same?
No, I would go with the Alpha. I hate to even say this out loud in your presence, but the 3 is a downgrade to me to the 2 in the Rebellion Pro. And it is, I talked about how the 2 makes me run a certain way, and I have to run that way or else it doesn't work. And then I fatigue after a while of that. The 3 gives you more leeway, but I don't think it's a good thing. It allows me to be a little sloppier, but it's tiring doing that. I don't think it improves me as much as the 2, but it fatigues me the same way, and it may be more uncomfortable on me.
I feel very good to hear you say that.
I still think it's a rocket ship, but
I think it's
untamed.
I think it's a boat anchor.
This was my longest outdoor session in them. I had done long reps on the treadmill and I had done a few quarters outside, but 3-minute reps was the longest I'd gone in a straight line and turning around. And I liked them less doing that than the other two things.
Hmm. All right. Well, I just know that now neither of us can be trusted with shoe opinions for one another is what I've landed on. And usually you're a good source for me, but I feel like that somehow
Yeah.
I've been betrayed, whether it's by you or the masses or the shoe. I
Well, the
just,
masses didn't support this shoe.
yeah, well, I'm with them. I stand
Yeah.
with the masses.
All right. So I want to open with something that you and I were talking about prior to this, and you're just going to have to take it. I want to
Okay.
talk about you and give you a compliment, but for the greater good of a learning moment, teachable moment.
Okay.
All right. So start out with your bragging. Tell me what you told me, what Strava told you today.
Well, I just opened it up because I was waiting for you. You were like a minute behind me. And so I was just, I had a notification on Strava and I pulled it up. Metrics are going downhill because there's full on taper. I raced in 2 days, but there's this new feature. It shows like this streak feature. I have a flaming fire that says
Ooh,
33 in it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. What is this? It
it's your
popped up
real
right in
age.
right in my real age.
Yeah.
Uh, Probably my VO2 max. Just kidding. And it tells me, Strava, that I have gone 33 weeks consecutive and 262 days in a row with logging an activity on Strava. So I'm on a 33-week streak, and that's either running or strength training, meaning I haven't missed a day in 262 days. And I didn't realize this. I assumed I just had, but I guess I haven't.
Well, as you're talking, I'm syncing my watch to see what my streak's at.
Okay, well, hopefully
It's going to
are
be
you
close.
you're a subscriber, right? I assume
Yeah,
that's
of course.
well, I know you were pushing back against that a
Yeah,
while
I
ago.
was. And then someone gifted it to me.
Oh, then you have to. And then you had to
So
probably re-up on your own dime.
yeah, I think it was a Strava shill.
It might have been. But I will say that I do a bro lift on Sundays where I just like bench press and do weighted
Mhm.
pull-ups because I enjoy it. And it's really laid back. I like get back to emails on my phone and lift. And that's the reason why is I started doing that just because I enjoy it. And that's why the streak really exists. But it's been 262 days. You know what? I'm going to break it on Sunday. I'll tell you that.
I don't think you should.
I'm not a
I
streaker. I
think you
don't
should
even
bench
care.
bench press Sunday.
And log. Well, the thing is I also started logging everything on my watch. I used to not log weight training sessions, but now I
Yeah.
like record it. But okay, well maybe I'll do one set of bench press and have like a 2-minute activity
Not for the
for you.
streak, but to tell the marathon that it's not in control here.
All right, maybe I'll do some squats.
Yeah. So the reason I want to bring this up is A, to brag about my man,
Oh,
but
start.
B, because this is the thing that we see happen when people choose a goal. That
Hmm.
things unrelated to the goal clean up. Not that your life needed cleaning up, but you committed to a marathon and your lifting frequency increased by one metric. Your workout streak started during just prior to a marathon build when
Hmm.
when we would think it'd be the opposite, that the first thing to go would be a Sunday lift. I need to get back on track and just recover so that I can hit my mileage again next week. But instead, one thing kind of raises other things. And when people are often not that you are, but the takeaway is for people who do struggle with consistency, or the tertiary pieces often come along for the ride when you focus on a main thing. And it's this weird phenomenon that I want to run and I'm not really like consistent on lifting, and I commit to a big running race and suddenly I'm lifting more, or my diet improves, or my sleep improves despite training more. Oftentimes these things happen, and this is a really interesting like case study of one to show that.
Yeah, I realized I moved a part of my lift to a Sunday because I actually needed more time for my running intra week because of what was coming up. So I said, well, I still usually benched and did pull ups every week, but they were in other sessions that became longer, bigger strength sessions. And so my running needing to take focus said, well, I don't want to give anything up. So it needs to shift here because I still need to bench press the barbell because sanity and vanity. And I enjoy my weighted pull ups. And so I didn't want them to go. So I made room is what happened. That's not gonna make me run faster though.
No, But
Yeah.
just it's a good reminder to people that when you have multiple things that need addressing, oftentimes choosing one specific goal for one of them will improve others as well.
Yeah.
We oftentimes get paralysis by analysis for many different reasons, but sometimes there's just too much to fix. There's too many areas I need to improve in. Sometimes just starting with one good solid one has this trickle down effect to the others.
Yeah, that whole object in motion stays in motion thing, I think it's like really call it compulsion, call it habit, call it not knowing any
Yeah.
different or better, but it's very real. For sure.
Yeah.
Did your streak pull up? You said you were loading.
Well, I don't really want to talk about what Strava's telling me, if we're being
You
honest.
you
It
don't?
has this new performance predictions tab. I don't like it.
What does it say? I could tell. I
Uh,
haven't looked at mine. I could tell you. Oh, look at all these Brakken Crocker activities popping up in my feed.
hey, we had a mini Strava dump.
Lunch weight training, afternoon run. Yeah, buddy.
Did you see that big lift session I just put in right prior to this call?
18 minutes and 42 seconds.
I forgot to start my watch, and like you, I wanna start using it for my strength training, and I was sitting there, I grabbed the bar, and I looked, and my watch was telling me the time. I was like, "Darn it," and I took my hands off, started my watch, but yeah, little lift in right before this. I didn't know if you
Okay.
could tell that my shirt was a little more snug during this.
It's just the sweat on your brow. Okay, so I haven't looked at this, which is funny. So this gives me a marathon predictor,
Me too.
and 5K and such. Very different than my watch. My Garmin actually gives me not very different, but different.
So it gives you 5K, at least me, 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon.
Yep.
One of 3 of them, it shows a slower predictor than it used to have, and one it shows a faster predictor. And none of these are based off of anything I've ever done in racing before. It's all based on how it interprets my last like 6 months of training.
Mm,
So, what's your 5K predictor right now?
15:38,
Nice.
which I believe I'd be a little quicker. I really do believe that. But 15:38,
Look
it's
at
in the
us. We're both
ballpark.
in the teens.
What are you at?
1951.
That's not accurate at all.
That's what 10% treadmill running will get you.
See, and that's the thing. Okay, because for example, when I go hit a trail run and even if it's 2,000 feet of vert, it like doesn't care and my metrics go down from it
Right.
and it drives me nuts. And so I actually think these are very inaccurate because I kept trail running in my mix. And then it says your performance conditioning is down 6% today. It's like, what? But
Right.
anyways, yours is not accurate for the
We're not
5K.
laughing at 1951 being slow. We're laughing because I think the last time I ran a 5K in training, it was like 17:05 or something like that.
Way
So it's
quicker. Right.
predicting I'm running almost 3 minutes slower.
Right.
10K, 41:48.
Yeah. So you're just it's just way off for you.
Yeah. It says I've gotten 40 seconds faster in its prediction, though, of that. So something I did recently really springboarded my 10K fitness. What's yours?
Probably that 18-minute strength session. I really like
Probably.
that. Mine says 33:12, which I
Seems
think
slow.
is slow for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Half marathon?
It gets closer here. 1:12:11.
Okay.
What about you?
That's not bad. 140:54.
Sorry. Sorry. It's not funny, but it's so far off. I
I mean,
mean,
Lisa and I ran 130 pushing a stroller in a driving rainstorm.
yeah, 140 isn't slow, folks. Sorry, but for you, it's laughable. That was way so far off. That was funny to me.
Well, it's 7:42 pace, which is perfectly honorable for a half marathon, but I think we ran 6:20 pace for 16 the last time we were together. Again, ancient history. And marathon?
Me?
Yeah, you. This is the big one.
It says 2:34:36.
We're going to say that Strava doesn't know their stuff because you're faster than that.
I believe so,
I
yeah.
wonder but you have data for it to pull from. So I wonder where the disconnect is, or unless it really knows that you're really reading into your workouts too far and you're really in
What
234 shape and you're going to have a terrible race this weekend.
my you saying that to the wrong person could really mess with them. For me, I think it's
Yes.
hilarious. Just so you know, I can handle it. I think okay. I manually. Well, what does yours say first?
354.55. So I'm sneaking in under 4 hours.
Yeah, yours gets. Even, I thought the 19 was bad. Yours gets worse as it
This
goes.
might be the most accurate
That's
because
just
there's a
strange.
world where I cramp and walk it in and that actually might be close to the time.
Okay. I think so. What I do, and maybe a lot of people listening could benefit from hearing this or do this, is like when I hit an uphill treadmill session, my Garmin is on. It's way off, right? It doesn't it's our
Can we
treadmill
stop
activity.
right there? I got a local legend,
Yeah, please.
okay, this
Okay.
week.
Which one?
It doesn't matter. Based off my 354 marathon, I've now earned a local legend status, Kirk.
That
Now continue.
those two are not even correlated a little, but I want to hear the name of the segment. That's important.
Transition, it's called.
Transition. All right.
It's on the ski hill. I went to the ski hill Saturday for the first
Hmm.
time. No one else goes there. That's why I got it.
Uh oh yeah. So um I'll hit an uphill treadmill session, upload the session to my Strava. It will give me a score for the how hard the demand, like, or score for the
Yeah.
demand of the session. Then I delete that so it comes off of my Strava because it doesn't line up with the correct mileage or vert, right?
Mhm.
And so then I go into Strava.com. I enter what the treadmill said exactly, including vert. Enter it as a regular run, though, not a treadmill session, because if you do that, it doesn't let you add vert. It doesn't matter. And then I try to move that toggle on my effort to get it as close to what
Yeah.
the original activity gave me. But I have a feeling then Strava sees like this guy just ran 12-minute mile pace for 6 miles at this effort. I wonder if it factors that in as well.
Yeah, there's no perfect way around it. You're getting on one end or the other.
Yeah, I think that's got to be part of it too. But it's not that far off for me, but it's
No,
light years off for you.
which it should be way off for me. I've logged practically nothing this year.
But like for example, I ran let's say when I ran 15, 17 in the 5K on the track, and it t- tinged early because it was not perfectly aligned. So it said I
Right.
ran like 3.25 miles. My
So you have
5K
the
predictor,
chorus.
well, now I know there's a track setting on Garmin. It's very accurate.
Okay.
But and it told me my 5K prediction was like 15:48 after the race when I had just come through by watches standard in like 14:48.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
so like
weird.
didn't even it's like I just ran faster than your predictor, so clearly that should be updated. It's just an interesting flaw.
I've never once had a race predictor at or faster than what I was capable of doing. Ever on Strava.
We weren't planning on talking about this today.
No. Although this brings something up. This is totally out of left field, but not because of weird synapses connecting. I had someone again in the last week or two bring up the fact that I've run a 232 marathon. And I obviously have not because I've never run a marathon. And I've probably had 0 times in my life I could have run 232 in a marathon. So, but it's because on Athlinks, there is a race result from the race around Lake Geneva the first time I did it. And at the time, on that Lake Geneva race weekend, this race was labeled as a Euro marathon. Do you
Hmm.
remember us when we went through that Athlinks episode one time?
Yeah, yeah,
And it was labeled Euro marathon, and no
yeah.
one that I've ever talked to can come up with what Euro marathon means. But this was a 22.12 mile race or something, and they called it a Euro marathon.
That's your PR.
But throughout the years, people have seen that and thought I ran a 232 marathon.
This isn't a good circumstance and to just lie.
Well, this is the only time ever that there's been a race result that was way better than that indicated something I'm not even anywhere capable of.
Huh, that's an
In
interesting
fact,
label. It could
one year there was a pre-race write-up for the Spartan Race World Championships. And it was 2013, I think, because 2012 I had taken third in the Beast and the Ultra, and someone had predicted me as on the podium, and they said not only was he third last year, but he recently has a 232 marathon to his name. And I DNF'd this race then as it came to
too
fruition,
much pressure.
but B, there was if they were betting lines, they were skewed by some false information.
Well, I don't know. It stands.
So
Athlinks
someone
is truth.
still looks this up from time to time and says, "Oh, he's a 232 marathoner."
I read something on your boy Scott Jurek on IG, which is a fun follow,
Mhm.
and something about how like It was part of a post about public lands being sold off and trail runners were,
I'm gonna
being.
just say it. It's become a less fun follow.
Oh, I think it's still just as fun. You don't like it as much?
Not as much.
Okay.
I
I
think
still
it's gotten too weighty and too big.
at times it is, but I enjoy it immensely. But point being is one of the slides was about, I don't know, how the ultra sign up score, like what is it even really based on and what does
Mhm.
ultra sign up even really do? And then I was like thinking about it and I was like, where does ultra sign up fall in the process of anything? They're just a registration page. Is it
I
just
don't know what
logs
they do,
results? What do they do? What
but
does
I am on
Athlinks
it
even do?
all the time.
I don't know. Anyways, I don't. It's just an interesting
Ultra
thing.
Run sign up is actually Ultra Run results.
Correct, but
Yeah.
it's fed in from where?
Well, there
It,
you can register for races through that, but it's not a sign up site in and of itself.
like is Matthew Ultra Sign Up? Maybe that's his last name. Just sitting in millions of dollars in his mansion, or is this like this is just a for no profit website that is a portal for us?
I don't know, but what if this was not named for signing up for ultras? It was truly this is a foreign last name.
Ultra Sign Up?
Yeah, other usernames were taken.
Not likely. That was a dumb thought, Kirk. All right.
Anyway, I use Ultra Run sign up all the time. Ultra sign up, Ultra
Ultra
Run
Sign
sign,
Up.
Ultra sign
Ultra
up,
Sign Up.
all the time. I'm on there every single time any athlete I work with signs up for a race that is ultra distance.
Well, I don't know what I don't know why that came up. Should we get to what we're doing today, or is there anything else pressing? None of this has been pressing.
Listen, this is race week. This episode here cannot take away from your mental reserves for race day, but it can distract you from race day. So even if we do nothing but this for the next 45 minutes, I'm a happy man.
Yeah, when your co-host tells you that you're going to do terrible and the race is going to go awful, that's always a good send off.
Who am I to say no to Strava? You don't
Not
fight
wrong.
AI.
All right, so we're going to do some Q&As today, which we have a queue of 13. So there are things to get to today.
Before we do, I suppose I shouldn't leave people hanging. The Endorphin Elite 2, if you have the cash laying around to be spent on a fun super shoe, is worth getting. Not for Hyrox.
Oh, okay.
I just want to get that out right away. It was testing for Hyrox. It failed for Hyrox. It is great at a lot of things. It is not stable and it does not have any amount of grip for what you want the grip for.
What would you wear it for? What would be a good?
It's so light. I don't know if there is a limit for how short you could take it. I would, if I woke up and had to jet off to the race to a 5K and I looked down, that's all I had. I think I'd be totally fine with that. Why is something going on with my light, Kirk?
I'm sorry to hear that.
Just turned off again. It's not holding a charge. Anyway, I think 5K I could take it down to with no hesitancy. And for me, it is a little firm in the forefoot. Despite it being so cushiony, you can kind of feel where the plate is. And I'm sensitive to that neuroma feeling in my forefoot, specifically on my right side. So I think I could for sure take it to 10 miles. It has the ability to go marathon, no issue whatsoever.
It
But
looks
I
like a
don't,
big bulky shoe from the photos on like
it
I feel like
does. And it is so light.
so it is. It's got some bulk to it, but it's just
It is the airiest, lightest upper. It is the lightest foam. I think pound for pound, it might be not pound for pound, but size per size, stack height per weight. It might be the lightest foam out there right now. If not, it's no worse than anyone else's. It looks bulky and cumbersome, and it runs much quicker than it looks. But I don't know if because it makes me run a certain way. I don't think I could do that for long. Half marathon is as high as I would consider taking it.
okay. It's good to know because I had my eye on that shoe as maybe just a test.
But if it works for your foot and stride, I mean, I don't know why people couldn't take it an ultra. It's so cushy.
All right, that's good to hear. Good to know. That's probably pushing me in the right direction. If I feel like blowing $300 or whatever they cost.
Yeah, and that or the new Puma Fast R is the one I'd be
Hmm.
eyeing. That's
Not
the
Puma.
next one I want to get my little toesies in.
Puma doesn't move my needle.
This new one is blowing everyone away who's tried it.
Yeah, no, it's not. I don't trust anybody who does Hyrox and then
No, no,
recommends it
no.
too.
Runners.
Okay, maybe then. You ready yet?
Born ready. Why do you keep sidetracking me?
I'm talking to the listeners. They're like, get on with it. You guys are
There are like
so
7 or 8 people who are like, man, I love these jam sessions. The rest are like, this is a 25-minute intro, boys. This has got to stop.
waste of time. All right, Damien. Let's just see how long. Okay, so May 1st is the oldest one we have. So
It's
like
really good.
8 weeks ago. Not terrible. No,
8 weeks.
7 weeks ago. When this airs, 7 weeks ago. Damien says, hey guys, listener question here. I've recently done a few jogs with 5 by 15 burpees and have been reminded how hard compromised running is when I haven't done any in a long time, even though I feel relatively fit at running. For me, that's since 2018 to 2020 when I was training for Spartan races. From your experience, how much would you say an addition of 30 minutes of compromised training once per week boosts someone's 5 to 15K running times? Would it have any notable impact on pure running, or would it only improve performance in OCR Deca Hyrox events? And maybe on gnarly trails, question mark? Thanks. And he says, I already do a lot of strength training, so take that out of the equation, basically.
Do you have thoughts on this?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, me too. I don't think you can put a number on it because my take is that it prevents stride decay. Compromised running can help your pure running by allowing you to handle the muscular fatigue late stage in runs. And people who are more prone to stride breakdown or just dropping off when insertion points or different parts start to really fatigue and hurt, they respond really well in normal running from compromised run work. And people who have no issue with that whatsoever are probably not going to see much of an increase or a decrease in their run times based on compromised running. But yes, I do 100% believe that it can help your pure running. Full stop.
0. It's going to help you 0 on the roads running 5K to 15K on the roads. I think it's going to make you 0%, 0.00000% faster.
Oh, I'm glad we finally get to argue about something.
On the roads.
On the roads, it will make you faster.
I disagree.
I shouldn't say faster.
I think as soon as you so much as add a 90-degree turn on a trail, even if it's a flat trail with the footing not perfectly even, when you talk OCR, which absolutely there's a huge, I was a huge proponent of it. I believe in it fully. I just don't think so. I know what my running's been doing personally since I stopped it, and my pure running is better. But anytime you were to take a hit, anytime that there would be a trail with vert, yes, I think it can make you better. That 5K on a trail, there's an application for that where I believe it would make you faster. I just don't think I'm talking in a vacuum, on a track, on a flat road. No, I'm saying no.
I'm going to tone down the quote I'm using. You can't unsleep with somebody. All right.
I didn't expect that. Okay.
Once you've done it, you can't undo it. You'll never go back to the that act version of yourself.
Okay.
The same is true with compromised running in yourself, Kirk. You can't undo the compromised running you've already done for years. So you cannot say, I'm not still benefiting from it.
I can't. There's no objective science measurement here.
No, there's not.
Well, there was mod.
Mod is science, and don't you dare besmirch mod. What I'm saying is this: it will not make you any seconds faster up until the point you would start to fade off, and it can prevent the fade by letting you go to work on muscles that wouldn't get worked otherwise. And in a road race, no matter how clean and pure the running is, when you crest a small hill 2 miles into a 5K, having compromised running in your resume allows you to get back to work slightly quicker, or allows you to handle that hill slightly better. And when there's 600 meters to go and everything's tying up, if your shoulders and arms are a little more used to working through this than a regular runners are, your kick might drop off a little bit less. And that's just for the pointy end of the spear. I'm saying the regular person will benefit noticeably, and you or I would benefit in a closing out a race under duress.
We can agree to disagree.
But we won't run any faster at any point in the race up until the point where we will just drop off less.
I think you have to think about, like, okay, so where does my strength work apply to that? Does that cover that? If I'm doing heavy strength work with my legs and arms, does that cover that box and compromised running becomes obsolete? Or would you choose compromised running over the strength work because we rely on those things when shit goes bad? And so I'm looking at it from like a standpoint in which I'm covering those bases. He said, as note, I am on a routine strength program. And I'm talking like when I say in a vacuum, like a flat road race or a track, I just don't see it. But if it's a super hilly course that could play like a mountain trail, sure. But
I'm with you. If you respond to strength training, that can cover a lot of this. But this is like the functional practice that the strength training lays the groundwork for. I keep going back to, why do people do certain types of running? Why do flat ground runners do hill training? Why do distance runners do sprints? A lot of it is muscle recruitment.
I agree.
And unless you're sprinting or getting extremely fatigued, you're not doing a good job of recruiting a higher percent of muscle fibers, significantly higher than you would normally just by depleting yourself in a long run. Compromised running can get you there really, really, really quickly.
You make an interesting point, actually, about like let's call it like 2-minute hill repeats in the off season. Is that, I mean, it's strength running, it's speed training. Is that compromised running for somebody who runs on a track, who races on a track? Would that be a compromised variant for them?
I would say that if you crest the hill and do something afterwards, that is
Yes.
compromised running.
That's just an interesting, I've never thought of it that way.
There was a high school coach who coached the national champion of Nike. I think it was Nike Cross Nationals. It could have been Foot Locker. I don't remember, but they moved to a course in California. They had a significant uphill and then a downhill and do you remember this? There's a significant up, down, and then an up, and then like 600 meters to the finish. When they first moved to that,
that's the Foot Locker course.
Right. But when they moved to it, it was a thing.
Oh, that last down. Yeah. The uphill and then that big down. Of course. Yeah.
I'm talking like 15 years ago or more now at this point. But there was an interview with the coach afterwards, and he talked about how the big thing they did with their elite high school runners that only the high-end kids did who were going to do postseason racing and try to do Foot Locker and Nike Cross Nationals was they would do their hill repeats into a flat stretch of running. And the whole focus of the workout was to crest the hill with pace and surge then. And now looking back, that was really novel. And people are like, that's such smart coaching. I'm like, that was compromised running. And it was sharpening for a race. That was race specific tactical workouts. But yeah, that's compromised running.
Compromised running. Do we want to spend more time on this, or do we've said what we want to say? And
to me, it's a advanced version of back in the day when people are like, does doing CrossFit make me better at compromised running for OCR? It's like, no, but yes. Yeah. If you fatigue a part that's going to cramp on you in a race and you work it to the point where now it doesn't get fatigued and cramped during a race, then you haven't gotten faster, but you stop slowing at a point where you would slow normally. So it's kind of an unprovable thing. Like, you didn't cramp, so you can't prove what the time difference would have been if you did cramp. But the fact that you're not cramping means that something worked.
Or you tripped and fell down and got up and still hit your PR. Well, that's kind of like a burpee.
Anyway, I would be totally fine if a coach told their athletes who are road and track runners, we are only working on the very proven things to be good here. Yes. But to a slightly untrained runner, if they wanted to throw in a compromised workout once every 2 weeks, I do not think they are going to limit their ceiling on the road or the track.
All right. Well, Damien has a second question. So for the sake of getting to both, Damien says, another question. What makes you think OCR is dying here in the US? I get that the elite field has almost gone away or is just not the same. So maybe that counts as a death. But every year I take the boys to the Dallas Kids Spartan, and it's always busy and seems like waves and waves of open events going on constantly at the adult start line. And I'm sure competitive events too. Maybe the business model has changed, and it does appear to be working at getting people to register and race, at least at Dallas. It would be cool to see some data on this. Maybe Jack knows.
Now, you probably don't know this, but by Dallas, does he mean the AT&T Stadium race in Anaheim?
I would say no. Dallas Kids Spartan, I'm assuming
Because
they
they
have a
have a,
kids
a
race
kids
at
race
it,
at the stadium.
he doesn't specify. I would assume the traditional. I think he would have said stadium if it was stadium.
Well, I only ask because there's a Granbury race, Granbury. I don't know how they say it down there. And it's outside Dallas, but they also have the AT&T Stadium race. But I want the differentiation because the AT&T race is not even happening this year.
Oh,
So,
I assume it's a regular race then.
okay. The numbers across the board are better than post COVID and way down from peak Spartan. And they've had enough years to get back to that, and they aren't hitting it, and they aren't getting the growth, and they're not getting the repeat customers like they used to. And so the participation numbers would say the sport is dying. The Savage race numbers would say this sport is not growing. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that the pro side is almost non-existent, I think gives us the right to say that the sport is dying in North America.
The question was
Not
why.
dead.
The question was why,
Oh, I thought you said, why do we say that?
or maybe it is why. I already deleted the question. I could go
Okay.
and look again, but yeah, and I think part of the reason that the numbers have rebounded since COVID, uh, a bit is they have pulled about half the races. So you have people attending what's left. And I think if you had the same races all still available, those numbers would look very dismal. But it's a condensed schedule, and people are I mean, athletes I'm coaching are traveling to these races still, and so I think it's also condensed. There's less options, so more turnout per
Yeah.
event. And I think if it was still widespread with all the typical events, the outcomes would be lower participations.
Yeah. In terms of why, I don't want to turn this into a race brain episode
No,
where
let's
we
not.
spend an hour complaining, but I'm going to give my Cliff Notes version of why I believe Spartan's dying. And I believe that I can say OCR dies with Spartan or grows with Spartan because they were the life force of the North American OCR scene. The moment Spartan disassociated from pro racing, they thought the masses could carry them. And they're right. The masses support the sport, but the pro racing gave them the ability to put on a TV show and to live stream pro races and to sell that as a goal. And people came out as a result of the show and the advertising. And when that stopped happening, they lost their self sustaining ecosystem, which was I see this on TV and I go out and do it myself. And they've never got their numbers back. So even if I'm incorrect on that it was correlation, not causation, I'm just going to stick it with the I'm right stance, which is as soon as they decommitted to the pro racing, they also stopped their growth of the open waves. Unfortunately, they were more symbiotic than Spartan thought.
Yeah, I agree with that fully. I also believe on top of that, and I used to say this on Race Brain, it was one thing that I just believe in firmly. At least it's what it got me into the sport. For example, I don't know why Hyrox is blowing up, and it's sunk its teeth into America and the world. Now it's official, it's here. Well, the advertisement, the guerrilla marketing within just gyms across the world, but most importantly, we have heroes to look up to, and they are exploited to the nth degree.
Yep.
We all want to be Hunter McIntyre, maybe not after Worlds, maybe after Worlds, depending on if you believe in elbows or not. We Spartan did such a great job of creating heroes and people to strive to be, and I am just as victim to that as anything. And it starts on the top, and it starts by shoving these people in your face, and it starts by aspiring, and it trickles down from there. And they just stopped. They completely stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they lost the money because of COVID or they chose like the masses can keep us afloat, but they did such a poor job. They just stopped. They used to have these cool ads with even Brakken on them, and you'd get fed this stuff on you jumping into that like rope climb water pit or whatever, like
Just
doing the
even
windmill with
Bracken
your
was a
legs.
funny statement. I know you didn't mean it that way,
I
but
didn't mean it that way. But like there was it was just like it really showed us what the sport was, and it showed us who the athletes were and what it was possible to be, and it was inspiring. And I'm sorry, but your overweight neighbor who posts a photo of them muddy at a Spartan race doesn't draw the same amount of people in as
Yeah.
Brakken Crocker ripped in a cutoff that's far too tight, jumping into a muddy water with the rope climb with sweet cinematography and whatever. It's just like, it's not the
Yeah.
same. And it starts at the top. Everything starts at the top, and they just cut the top off, is what happened, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so much is word of mouth in a small sport, and people stopped advertising it for Spartan, unfortunately. So it could come
Well,
back.
because
It's strong in
Spartan
Europe.
couldn't pay their bills, and Spartan pissed off their sponsors,
Yeah.
and okay.
They're a great idea and they're a bad business.
It's
And
such a great event. It still is. You go and they're awesome.
mhm,
It's too bad.
yeah.
All right, Steven. Steven what says, potential Q&A question or pod topic. You guys are both dipping into hybrid. I'm curious what trends you are seeing on the elite, near elite side in training methodologies that work. I think it is far from figured out. I know guys, Nick Bear, for example, that are faster than me at every distance 5K and up and beat me in every important lift in the gym. I'm minutes ahead of in Hyrox. There's clearly a skill set for this, and I'd personally like to credit mental toughness for some of it, but that can't explain it all. Do you think there's a sweet spot of aerobic and anaerobic ability that just works for this sport? Short answer, yes. Mod. Done.
Yeah.
We never
Yeah.
talked about mod on this show.
No, we didn't, did
What
we?
does it stand? Tell people what mod is.
MAUD is an acronym that stands for maximum available under duress. And that's very, very blurry, but it's basically what percentage of your maximum output can you keep when you're fatigued? And when you're fatigued from a non sport specific activity. So how much does your running suffer when something non-running taxes you? So that's your mod score. What percent can you keep of your 5K after you've had to do a sled push? That thing, that undefinable that has been defined as mod, that thing is a big key. But there's two different questions. One is, why are some people better than others? And it's just like a skill set thing. Hyrox rewards work. You have to be able to put out watts, like really put out watts without it destroying you. And you have to do it at multiple modalities over and over and over and over. So you have to regenerate very quickly, and you have to be able to regen while doing other tasks. Some people don't do that well. For some people, work is work. If they bike hard, that takes away from their running credits and they don't have it. Other people, their running credits start regenerating while they're spending credits on bike. So that's the skill set right there. But from the training side, man, people are embracing running. At the high end of this sport now, the people who were weak runners are running a lot and becoming good runners. Jonathan Wynn, for example, I think it was John Wynn, was considered a station guy, and he got up to 100 miles. He got injured, but he was running 100-mile weeks to fix his running. The top end has embraced running as the fastest way to get better at this sport.
Yeah, Steven says, well, Nick Bear can run faster than I can. His 5K time is faster than mine, and he bench presses way more than me, or he deadlifts way more than me. Then why is he better in a vacuum at both?
Mm-hmm.
Why can I beat him when we combine them? Right? That's the question he's asking. Is on paper, I don't stand a chance. Steven says, mental toughness is part of it, but I would argue Nick Bear's probably just as mentally tough.
He
Right?
trains for ultras in Texas. That's all I need to know.
So, right, but it's a great question. This is a fantastic question.
It is.
It has to do, like, for example, I think it has to do with physiological predisposition as like a human being, an athlete. For example, do you remember, I brought this up on the podcast before, one of the greatest mountain runners OCR had ever seen for a period of time was Rhea Coble. And
Yep.
Rhea Coble had a sad VO2 max for how fast she was running. She had like a mid or low 50s VO2 max. And for a woman running as well as she did, that's 10 units below anybody else that she's kicking their butt. But her lactate threshold was so close to like her VO2 max, that gap was so small that like she could ride the line higher than any of her competition. And that's why she was good. So her VO2 max on paper sucked compared to her competitors, but she could keep such a high percentage of that. Her mod maybe would be
Yeah.
lactate threshold. And so there has to be some sort of, I think there's a physiological marker that probably either hasn't been discovered or it's as simple as, well, maybe, just maybe you actually have a better lactate threshold than Nick Bear. But then would that explain his 10K time or his marathon
Right.
time? Then so you get cloudy. So I don't know. I'm still saying I don't know, but there probably is actually something going on that I don't have an answer to.
For sure. And also, Hyrox is a sport that rewards time spent in sport. So I pulled up as you were talking, Rich Ryan, who now is the fourth fastest of all time. And his first race pro, he ran in 2021. So 4 years ago. And that was 107.22. Fast forward 4 years, he has run 54 minutes.
Astounding.
54.28. So he has cut off essentially 13 minutes in 4 years. So we also couldn't judge Rich off his first competition. How many has Nick done?
One, I believe.
One. Did he do a relay as well? I'm going to look
Maybe.
him up here. Shout out highresult.com. Their site. That's another site I just live on. Oh, I'm not even seeing them. Doesn't matter. Point is, you drop so much time once you figure out how to train for it. Training in isolation does not work for most people, and combining it together generally does not get you all the way there until you realize how you have to combine it for you. And so Nick has great stats, and I believe he could be a very good Hyrox athlete. He just has to spend time doing Hyrox.
You make a great point. We don't know how many races Steven has run, for example, or so those would be questions we'd have to follow up with.
So yeah, so Steven, I'm just going to say, not knowing you either have a skill he doesn't and he'll never catch up to you, or he has that skill too, and in 2 years he's going to be way ahead of you because he has the metrics that are better. I don't know which one it is, but you got to spend time Hyroxing to be good at Hyrox.
We'll leave it on that. That's a good answer. Ryan says, hey guys, I don't know if you were able to check and respond to these messages, but had a training question and thought you would be among the most qualified to answer. I'm training for a 50K and am following the training plan on your website. I've always been curious how to know how much vertical gain to target for hill or trail-based runs. Is there a benchmark I should shoot for in relation for the average vert per mile for the race course I'm training for? Any insight you can provide is very helpful. Well, I live in Colorado. Mountains trails are not easily accessible, so I have to make it count when I can make it to them.
This is our life.
I mean, yeah, I got a 140-foot ski hill to work with most of the time.
So I have two thoughts, and then I want you to take it and run with it. The first is that one of the first things that trail and mountain runners realize is that average feet per mile is maybe, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, maybe the most useless metric for planning out a race or a run. It is not about average slope. That would be the next. No, that would be the most useless. Average slope up and down is the most useless metric. Average per mile is the next most useless, because you could run for 2 hours at 10% incline, or you could do a 1 hour flat run and 1 hour at 20% and get the same thing out of it, and you're not getting the same stimulus. So extrapolate that into big climbs and descents and all that. So I would focus on what are the biggest climbs your race is going to have and be prepared for those climbs. Don't be prepared for the net gain as specifically, if I had to choose one or the other, which then leads you to, you get to train in isolation for a lot of it. Do your normal running with whatever's convenient, and then plan big days where you do take the time. And if you're going to get there, then you're going to crush vert while you're there, knowing you're not going to be back for a while.
Yeah, I mean, really, I can't add anything to that other than just repeating it in a different way. To be honest, well, I know it's as simple as the total vert does matter. Let's say in a race, average or not, if it says, "Hey, I got a climb and descend 3,000 feet in this half marathon on the trails, like it's probably important that you get at least that in training at times. So you're,
Mhm.
whether it's long climbs or short climbs, I think like getting it any way you can, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Uh, but the distance and length of those climbs, I think, is the first. You got to go to elevation profile, and you got to say this climb is 1,200 feet, and I have 140-foot ski hill. I'm in trouble. What do I do? Well, I have a Nordic track, thankfully. So you can do it that way. Or you may have to make your 2 hour drive every 2 weeks for your 2 hour long run to get that 2,000-foot climb trail. And you should repeat it twice in your long run. Up, down, go do it again. But you need to be climbing for the duration of which these climbs are going to require. And then descending's a whole other topic as well, but that's the same principle applies. But I agree with you 100%. The average slope or elevation gain doesn't matter, but I do think the total matters.
Total
And
does matter.
yeah, the total matters, and just knowing, like, it's in the mountains. Okay, so there's big climbs and big descents,
Right.
and you must be ready, right? Like, I really don't think you can. We've tried to do it for years, and if the only place I had was the 140-foot ski hill, and I didn't have my Nordic track, I can tell you I wouldn't have made it to the top of Tahoe as quickly as I did
Right.
if I didn't use my treadmill. So there's like both of those things at play.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. My example of this is that the 5K cross country course that I had access to when I first started training for mountain races had like 150 feet of vert on it. So 50 feet per mile, which is a very hilly cross country course. So if I just kept repping that every, what, every 9 miles was 450 feet. So I would have to do like close to a 20-mile run to get 1,000 feet of vert. If I got 1,000 feet of vert in a 3-mile run, I am more prepared for a mountain course than if I did 1,000 feet in a 20-mile run.
Yeah, 100%.
If it was a 20-mile mountain race, I would still rather prepare for it with 60-minute workouts to get those 1,000 feet than a 20-mile run to get 1,000 feet. I would be better at it. So that's all I'm saying. Total vert does matter. Yes. Average per mile does not matter as much.
Yeah. I just think, and then for me, it's over swinging. I mean, if you have a race and they're 500-foot climbs, like find somewhere with 750 or 1,000. Like being over prepared is never
Yeah.
a bad thing to just sit in it. So if you can find and access that, and I think if you can get by at home wherever you live in Colorado, and then I think every other weekend even would be enough to hit the
Yep.
true big stimulus that's going to benefit you. I don't even know if it's that logistically difficult every week. I'm not worried about that, but every other week would be mandatory, I think, if you really want the most out of your training translating to the race.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're the same way. You find your race and then you get on Strava and you find someone who's done that, or you find any random GPS file and you go and you put your cursor and you scroll up and down every climb and see what is the actual grade I'm running when I'm going uphill.
Hmm.
And then you try to match that. If you're only going to get there once every other week to the mountains, you have to get really specific on those and you find the grades that are as big or bigger than what you're going to be running. And then you really dial in. But it also makes it cleaner. I can only do this. I can only do it twice per month. So this is all I'm doing when I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. When in doubt, go steeper, and when in doubt, go longer. As far as
There's
climbing goes, that's my philosophy as well.
people talk about junk miles. There's such a thing as junk vert,
Hmm.
I believe.
Like you're training for a mountain race, but you go run these like little 20-foot rollers constantly on the roads near your house, and it says you got 800 feet in your long run, but does that really translate to a mountain trail race? No, even though it gives you another 800 feet for the week. Like
Yeah, I
that
do.
sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I do so much work at 10% on my treadmill that I get a lot of treadmill vert per week, but it doesn't have me mountain ready. It
Right.
has my legs strong, but that is not mountain ready.
Yeah, I agree. Next question is from Scott. Scott says, "Hey, Kirk and Bracken, for the next Q&A. Recently, I feel like I have forgotten how to run properly and smoothly. Every run feels clunky and inefficient. Part of it also has to do with too many cues I've been given about form change due to some overstriding in the past. As a result, every run is a chore rather than something enjoyable, and it feels like the energy I'm putting in is more than what I'm getting out. What recommendations do you have to return to efficient running? Thanks."
That is a really good question.
Have you ever tried cadence running or trading your, he says he was
Yeah.
overstriding in the past. So he's probably trying cadence running, shortening his stride, quicker turnover. Have you ever done it? Like made a focus on it?
Yeah.
How'd it
Yeah,
feel?
several times. It's always clunky.
Same.
It's also your heart rate goes up initially. Notably, it goes up.
You almost have to strain, like there's a tension that I have forced into my body to stay tight, and that's
Yeah.
inefficient.
Movement comes first. Efficiency at that movement comes later, and it's not guaranteed. So it's
What's
always costly up front. My
what's your
belief
advice?
in this is that this is one of the only times I recommend minimalist running. You might want to go to the soccer field, take your shoes off, and run some sprints and strides barefoot, like 3 to 5 times a week for a little bit. You might want to do some shuffle jogging barefoot or in your like racing flats or something a couple times a week, even starting a run with that. Go do 10 to 15 minutes of barefoot jogging on the turf and then put your shoes on and run. But this is the time to go back to a style of running that doesn't let you do bad things. Sprinting is the simplest way to run well for most people. If you run 50-meter dashes in bare feet, you're going to run much better because you're not thinking about cues. And then you rebuild from there.
Our minds actually went to the same place. I was gonna
Really?
say, yeah. Well, I one additional place, but get your butt to the track and overspeed train. Start ripping twos, maybe even up to fours, no further. You're running hard, fast, big rest. I don't care. You're covering ground. You're eating up terrain, and you'll be surprised what that does to like just the feeling and efficiency of your shuffle runs. For me, it does. When I start over speed training,
Yep.
I click right in. I put on my recovery run shoes, go up my door, and once I'm into like a good uh, phase of training, it smooths me out with the short with like the shuffly stuff. And so
Yeah,
like
I
I
agree.
would like almost abandon, as you said, like I'd be doing the opposite of like a true training build, and I'd be going right like sure barefoot strides on the grass, great, but like go run 12 by 200 meters with 2 minutes rest and rip
Yeah,
and do that repeatedly. The other thing that I would recommend, which can just rewire your brain, is like I would be translating work to like 15% on the treadmill
beautiful.
and just like rip it. Go do 5 by 5 minutes at 15%. You're going to forget about your cues because you're at 15%. You're just going to run free. And I think it would translate to flat terrain once you return. So I would do one of those two things or both.
I would say the number one thing I tell people when they say I overstride on my easy runs, I say go run uphill.
Mm-hmm.
Show me someone who can overstride uphill.
Well, I could, and they die immediately.
Right. Yeah. You are not capable. It's almost physically impossible to overstride for longer than like 20 seconds uphill.
Not even, I feel like.
Yeah. It just fixes a lot of form issues. And then if you want to be systematic about it, you move it down 0.5% or 1% of incline at a time. And ideally, you have a mirror that you're using and you're watching yourself and you're just trying to mimic those cues. Running uphill calms extraneous movement in your stride. Your arms stop doing weird stuff. Your heels stop doing weird stuff. Everything kind of just calms down and it goes back down to we're just trying to survive and move here. And then you add flatness and speed to that. So sprinting or uphill jogging or trying to run hard, but two extremes, other ends of the spectrum, but they're going to get you to the same place. And probably best practice is do them both.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in periods where like just doesn't feel like it's clicking, right? For some reason, I sometimes I can't even put a finger on why I'm just feeling inefficient and
Yep.
clunky, and it's like a frustrating place to be honest.
Those are the
But,
days I often stop and do a few strides in the middle of my run.
hmm,
Just like it's like centering yourself.
sure.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't fulfill my role on this podcast and say you might need to look at your shoes. Big cushy shoes, I'm a big believer in for making your body feel better and extending your shelf life, but they absolutely do not encourage you to run cleaner. They let you get away with things, and that is the biggest downside. I don't care about loading forces or anything like that for most people. I think you get sloppy in maximum cushion shoes. That's the tendency.
I think it's for me. It's just you give me a high heel to toe drop, and I'll feel efficiency no matter how inefficient, no matter how fit I am. If you put me in a 10 mil drop shoe, my efficiency score just dropped 20%. I'm telling you. So maybe just looking and experimenting with shoes might be a
Yeah.
pretty likely fix.
I do not feel comfortable above 8 mil drop, but I will turn over quicker. I
Mm-hmm.
may My knees may hurt, my stride may feel terrible, but my cadence is rising without a doubt, and I'm not overstriding in those shoes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good I'm glad you brought that up. Anything else you want to add to that one?
I think that was pretty good. What do we get? 3 questions in this hour?
I don't know what we're at. Well, a few more than that, I think. Will says, future Q&A question. Could you talk about the run, walk, run method and transitioning away from it? Some background. I was a perennially injured runner for years. Could never string a training block together. Found run, walk, run, and Galloway methods, which led me to complete 2 marathons. No major injuries within 1.5 months of each other, 440 and 430 times. Your beautiful voices accompanied me, accompany my long runs, and I've heard you mention you don't like that style of training. I've incorporated more quality threshold into my runs because of you both, but I still use the run, walk, run method, and I'm frankly nervous about transitioning out. Can you expand on your thoughts of run, walk, run and offer advice on transitioning out, why one should? I do feel more beat up when I'm not doing run, walk, run versus when I am and can make similar paces, but I'd like to get faster in general. But it would be easier to run with clubs, friends, etc., even if I didn't rely on run, walk, run. Thank you.
This is the second time recently where someone has said that we have taken a stance against something
I don't
I don't
remember it.
remember taking a stance against.
I don't either, but maybe we made a passing comment or something about it.
We for sure have talked about it in a negative light in a certain instance, but in general, run, walk, run is interval training. We love intervals, and I'm a proponent of aerobic intervals. There are many athletes of mine, hopefully they're listening to this, they're not sick of me yet, but some of their aerobic days, instead of a 40-minute run, it's 10 by 4 minutes with 15 to 30 seconds rest, just to break up the pounding and to recenter their stride a little bit, or because they're coming off injury. I use run walk all the time, including for speed days, and it's called interval work. So I actually do support that. I think I probably said that's not your way to run your fastest, but no, I'm a proponent of it. And I think it's really simple because intervals are black and white. When you want to move away from it, you lengthen the rest by a few seconds. I mean, the work by a few seconds, and you decrease the rest by a few seconds. And you just keep incrementally moving those goalposts until, hey, what do you know? We're running for an hour straight.
I have follow-up questions for this gentleman. But largely, I'm curious as to the why. He said injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been healthy and able to run these marathons and such. The reason not to ever abandon it would be keeping easy days easy, and that's what's required based on your fitness or build or where you live or temperature, that you just find it impossible to keep your heart rate in check when needed on days when recovery matters, and this is your way. You should never leave it then, if that's the boat you find yourself in. If it's just because like my legs are kind of heavy and I just need to walk because I'm just like kind of don't enjoy it, and so it breaks it up for me, I think that's the person leaving something on the table. Just continual, like, your heart rate's not getting too jacked on a recovery run or a steady run. It's not about that. It's just more about like, I'm tired and I don't feel like it, and running helps me get through. Run walk helps me get through it. So that person, I think, could benefit from transitioning away from it and just getting used to, like, stopping isn't an option. I think that's a very important turning point in some people's running. People think they need to stop when they really don't. And once you stop once, you stop twice and 3 times, and it's a habit that gets formed. Not saying this is the case with this person, because I could piss some people off by saying that. If it's by design to achieve the appropriate effort for the day, and that effort being easy, 100% on board. If you're choosing to run, walk a tempo run, I'm going to go 5 minutes hard, 1 minute walk, 5 minutes hard, 1 minute walk. But the idea, you could probably get more benefit from just making it continuous. That's the person I would urge to actually try to transition out, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Because I think you're keeping the heart rate elevated without dips, depending on the purpose of the session, will benefit you more than a run, walk, run program.
Yeah.
So those are my first thoughts.
Was it a tool or is it a crutch?
Exactly.
And that's really what you need to answer. The other thing is that I think for new runners, there are some people who can handle running for an hour or 2 hours, but not well. I would rather have you run really well and stop before you can't in order to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could run just fine for 40 minutes, but I'm going to break down and my stride's going to get sloppy. But if I went 5 minutes on, 30 seconds off, I could accrue 60 minutes of work. That's just better. And so if you're using a better stride and the goal is to someday use this stride for my whole run, great. Now, we don't want to always be running hard intervals, but if it's just, they're both relatively aerobic, but one's not sustainable for me as a runner muscularly or stride wise, and one is, then choose your better stride and take some breaks from time to time. I do this all the time on my incline work. If I do a 60-minute session on the, let's say at 15% incline, I'm probably never going longer than 7 or 10 minutes at a time without at least stopping for 5 to 10 seconds and stretching out my calves or Achilles or doing something to just make sure I'm good. I don't think that's having any negative effect on my cardiac output.
I think it's the way it's being used and the why it's being used. And
Yeah.
if it's hey, I notice if when I implement walking and I haven't been injured and that seems to, I just need those little breaks for my structure, then never leave it, honestly. At least keep it in on some days, right? Don't you
Yeah.
agree? But your point about what is interval training, it's a run walk program. That's very accurate. I mean, what's a 2 a day? A really exaggerated run walk program. I rest 4 to 6 hours and walk around and do life, and then I run again, and that is to accrue mileage with minimizing damage, and that's what run walk is in a single run, really.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then his advice about transitioning out, strategically, incrementally, slowly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's one run a week, or separating the time between walking bouts further, and then going for it on one run eventually.
3-minute reps become 4-minute, become 5.
And it doesn't mean like, okay, so now I only run walk. I usually run walk 3 days a week. Well, I'm going to aim for 2. And the other one now is going to be a steady. And you do that for a few weeks and say, I'm okay. And then you try to do that, for another replacement. Now you're down to one run walk a week. And then eventually you ditch that last one. But it would be like climb the ladder and spend weeks in each phase before you don't just do it all in 1 week and be like, I don't run walk anymore. That's
because it's working. You're doing well. So you don't want to ruin that. So you don't have to do anything drastic. You can just inch forward. So the other thing that came up last week was I had a few messages after my things are annoying me with running influencers conversation I had. And several people are like, I'm fairly certain you're talking about David Roche or you're talking about SWAP in general. And someone said, I know you've talked in the past that you don't agree with his calorie take and you don't like his uphill or steady state finishers to workouts. And I think I said the exact opposite. I think that fueling more than we can and smarter is the secret sauce to unlocking ultra performance. And I am a huge proponent of finishers, a huge proponent of that. Going back to, I don't know, Kirk, when's the first time I prescribed a finisher to you?
Well, you've talked about finishers since day one on this podcast, especially uphill finishers, which is exactly what David Roche will do. So, he stole it from you, if anything.
That's right.
Be honest, David.
I want everyone to use finishers, and I want everyone doing more uphill work. And I think that at the end of a workout, uphill tack-ons are like golden hour training. So if I ever were to have a problem with anything David Roche is doing, I can promise you it's not going to be trying to fit more calories into his gut or trying to fit more uphill or steady state or threshold work at the end of workouts. I am on board with that. So I just want to be very clear. I wish there was a supercut of all the things that we've disagreed with ourselves on and don't realize it, because I'm sure at some point we actually are contradicting ourselves and we have no clue about it. So someday someone's going to make this like supercut of me saying one thing and then years later being like, I would never support that, but what I do support. But until that happens, I'm just going to keep shouting out loud that I never said that.
That's also evolution.
That's right.
Yeah, we learn. We live, we learn. All right, Alex says, speaking of which, is an athlete I work with, Alex. Speaking of which, I've got a question, and you can feel free to answer here or throw it on a running public Q&A. Naturally, I listen to other running podcasts and follow ultra runners on Strava.
Next.
Yeah. Piss off, Alex. And there seems to be a good portion of them that advocate for bigger training days, 4 or 5 hour trail long runs. Is there a reason that you don't prescribe these? He asks me specifically as his coach. Is there a reason you don't prescribe these? Not that I'm doubting you. I'm just curious what the difference in training philosophy is. Perhaps it's as simple as me not being at that level yet. At what point do longer runs start to become a valuable tool? So he was asking me as his coach.
Mhm.
I sent him a voice note to this
Okay.
as a response, but I saved it for this. I figured others could learn from it. So
Are you gonna play the voice note?
I could go back. I just have a screenshot of the question, so I guess I could go back and.
Or is that not something you wanna do?
Well, no, I would not. I wouldn't bother me. It just might take me a second to pull it up. But, what do you want us to? Should I answer just because he asked me initially?
Yeah, I wanna hear your take on what you would
It'd
tell
be
your athlete.
so we
Because
have,
you
if
know
you
him,
look, we
obviously.
have lots of voice messages back and forth. So I don't know where it would be in this.
Yeah, that's fair.
I could look though. Let me see.
Well, while you look, I guess I'll go. And one of our core beliefs as coaches and athletes is that the greatest ability is availability, and that ultras will find whatever weakness you bring in and they will turn it from a hairline fracture into a compound fracture. And the return on investment of going past somewhere between 3 and 4 hours is starts to get a little risky. And so we err on the side of not doing a lot of those workouts or at all those workouts with athletes until we know the athletes well enough to say we trust that the risk is worth the reward for you as an athlete. I have athletes that do 4 hour runs. I have athletes that do 6 hour runs, but not month one together. And oftentimes not year one together. Because the last thing I want to do is be the reason you do not get to the start line or you DNF.
Hmm. Well, I found the answer. I don't know what I say. It's only 43 seconds long. I'm afraid. Now, what I said, I don't remember what I said. I know what I would say today.
Do you want to mute and make sure you're not like dropping all these really awful things?
Not really.
Really racially charged?
That's not me. So here, we'll play it. Tell me if it comes through, okay?
Okay.
Hey, man. This is a great question, actually. Excuse me. And the short answer is that you're not there yet. You can't like go from like first grade to master's level college courses, right? Not that you're in first grade, but you're probably in high school or early college with the endurance career. And it would be just like a death sentence to be like, hey, Alex, we're going to go run 5 hours on the weekend now without risking major injury and maybe setback. So there's a time and place for it. I actually really like this question, so I'm going to add it to the Q&A because I think a lot of people would benefit to hear from it. But that is the short answer. And if you're like real curious as to more details, of course I can provide them. But otherwise, I think it's a great Q&A question. So thanks, dude. That's
Look
it.
at that.
I mean, that aligns with, I mean, that's what I figured I said, but I clearly was eating lunch. I had my mouth full of something.
And you called him a first grader. Lead with insults and then learn.
And with compliments. I'm just echoing exactly what you said, is that there is a time and a place. So he is very new in his ultra journey. We've been working together for years and a few years now, and he's on the cusp. Like, we're going out for split doubles. That's my workaround. He's doing quality in the morning and a 3 hour long run that same afternoon. That would be as close as you can get to sending him out for 4 or 5 hours, but I wasn't ready to say like, let's go for 5 hours yet. Yeah. And he's doing 3 hour long runs. And I think we had 2 split doubles in this build. For example, morning was like a threshold interval fartlek style run, in the PM, I say, as long as it's, like 2 to 4 hours or more, goes out, refuels, goes for an hour, 3 hours on foot under duress. That's what he's getting right now. I've assigned a handful of athletes longer over the years, but I have to be so confident that I'm not the one who's going to hurt them, to be honest. Yeah. So
and part of it is we need to know that the athlete knows when to pull the plug. I can send myself out for a 4 hour ski hill workout because I know how I need to adapt what I'm feeling to give myself the least amount of chance of things going wrong in the week or two following this. But until I know that about an athlete, it almost feels irresponsible. This is gonna sound like your first grader comment, but it's like giving an assault rifle to a chimpanzee. Like you
That's worse.
oh, it's way worse. That's not what I'm saying it is, but like you're responsible for whatever happens in that situation. Uh,
You're setting up a first grader for failure by inserting them into a college course, right? And
yeah,
I'd say Alex is almost about to graduate high school and enter the college level. He's just like, this race will probably tell us a lot that he has coming up.
yeah,
We just don't know yet. Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt, but
No, no, that's it. And mine was like obviously way it was very much hyperbole. But the fact is that's how we feel as coaches. Not that you're a chimpanzee, but that we are responsible for whatever outcome comes out of this situation. And so we want you to be set up for long-term success. And since you can run a good ultra without a 5-hour long run, we want to get to the point where we know the 5-hour is not only beneficial, but smart.
I agree. Anything else to that one?
If you felt I called you a chimpanzee and you're on my roster, I did not.
Okay. Nor did I call anybody a first grader. Brad. Brad says, "Hey guys, longtime listener of the show. Love all the content. Here's a possible Q&A if you haven't covered it already. Is there a minimum dose of any run workout, easy, quality, etc., that you need to do for it to really benefit you? On days when life stuff gets in the way and you're staring at less time than you need for some workout, is it better to modify and do a shortened version, even if it's just 20 to 25 minutes, or should you just take the L and hit it hard tomorrow? Just wondering if all deposits in the bank are beneficial or if there truly is a minimum in your opinion."
It's
Thanks,
a
Brad.
good question. Every single real person hits this.
Yep.
Not that pro athletes aren't real people, but they live in an alternate reality. Everyone with a life hits this. And the answer is there's no such thing as a wasted workout if you're doing it with purpose. And the last thing we want to do is skip and hit it harder the next day. So yes, even though 18 to 20 minutes hasn't really been shown to give a great cardiac benefit if you're aerobic during that time, most of us haven't hit our 10,000 reps yet, and that is skill work, and skill work is always beneficial, as is momentum.
Yeah, I mean, is going out in the sun for 20 minutes going to give you the same tan as 60 minutes? No, but it's going to give you something. In this case, I actually think a couple of things, though. I do believe that pushing it to tomorrow, if it means executing in full and you can navigate the rest of your week, like you don't take the L, you go out and you choose to get 20 to 25 minutes of time on feet that don't have a distinct purpose. Maybe it's an additional recovery or gray zone run for all I really care at this point. It's supposed to be a quality day anyways. And then you do push it to tomorrow, and then you sort of rewrite, you ad hoc the back half of your week to get it done and move forward accordingly. Like, for example, if I'm training for a marathon and my window to work out gets cut to 50 minutes, but I literally need to do 75 minutes of quality. It's a 105-minute session with warm up and cool down. I need, that matters.
Yeah.
Like you have to, you can't fake the longer stuff once you get to the back third of the race. And so, but if you're training for a 5K, maybe 8 by 400 meters instead of the 16 would probably check the box for the day. So it's also nuanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
General rule of thumb, if you can get it done the next day, inserting a 20 to 25 minute easy effort is not going to make you worse.
Right. Right.
Just
And
say,
then maybe
this is skill work. I'm going to run really well today.
I've had
Tomorrow
this
I'm crushing.
all the time. I can't get my Tuesday in. So what should I do? Well, you're going to hit it tomorrow and Wednesday. Okay. And then you are going to hit your midweek long run on Thursday as well, because we're going to get on schedule because we need to, but you're just going to decrease the effort, and you're going to chill more on your midweek long run than you typically would. And maybe we'll take a little bit of time away from that midweek long run to make sure we don't crack you. But like, we just make modifications that way. And it's pretty easy fix, especially if you're healthy.
Yeah. It's endless what you can do after a workout. You could also decide we're skipping the midweek long run and we're making it a real long run this weekend. Or
Right.
it doesn't, I mean, there are endless things you can do. Point is, it's not binary. It's not a 0 or a 1. It could be a 0.5. It could be a 0.25. It could be a 0.75. Like, there are a lot of ways to check the box that are beneficial to you. So no, I wouldn't worry about doing mini workouts as long as you still get to the intended workout at some point.
Yeah.
Have you seen how much this is darkened in here since we started? Actually lightening up as I'm saying this, but
A little bit.
feels like we got something moving in.
Can you see how like I'm getting washed out by all the sunlight coming into my No, it's the worst. Well, this isn't the worst, but it's Juneteenth today, so it's like a corporate holiday for most, and the kids are out of school and very first world problems. But I'm looking behind the computer at the lake, and everybody is just joyriding. There's just dozens of people. There's paddle boarders going by as I'm speaking right now, and jet skis whipping circles. And here we are. Here I
Stuck
am
here with me.
working. Yeah, everybody's on the lake today. It's a real big problem here in the DeWindt household. All right, somebody's always screwing around on the lake, so somebody's always having their best day of their life while you're like in here on your computer. That's what I realized.
Man, between being too fit and being body shamed and having people on the lake that you live on, you have a rough life, Kirk.
That's not what I was getting at. Michael asks, he's twice removed here. Question: my wife's boss's husband wants to run Hyrox doubles in November. I coach Michael. He has never done one, but his running is a step above mine. 8:34 average for the half marathon and 8:27 in the full. With me being around 8:50 in the half, I feel like that is taking away from his ability to perform at his peak for Hyrox. What are your thoughts on this? You can also discuss with Brakken on the pod in case someone else out there is in the same boat. So basically, he's over a minute per mile slower, the athlete I'm coaching, over a half marathon than his potential partner.
Is that what the times were? Did I really mishear the times?
7:34 average for the half.
Oh, 7:34.
And 8:50 for him for the half. So you got about a minute 20 per mile difference. So he's saying, like, am I a liability, or what will this really tarnish either of our experience?
In terms of training together or doing doubles?
Doing doubles, limiting Hyrox potential for his wife's boss's husband.
So we're solely talking race day, not training together for it.
Yes, but his ability to perform at his peak for Hyrox, he's worried about him taking away from this partner's ability to perform at Hyrox.
Okay. That's a good question. This is like most doubles pairs. There's a different skill set coming into it. The first thing is that my assumption is that your boy's a little bit more trained up for Hyrox than the wife's boss's husband is. And so in theory, the mod is a little higher and they'll be closer to run paces on race day, but the stronger runner works more on the stations and everything balances out.
So what is this? Is this too big of a discrepancy between partners that it's like, this is going to be a frustrating experience for one or both?
No. Are you guys going to qualify for worlds? Is this your optimal pairing? No, probably not. Is either one of you going to have not going to get the full Hyrox experience? No. I have done doubles with several different talent level of partners. One where I ran with a woman I coached who in a 5.5 marathon, I would probably be close to 2 minutes per mile faster. And I have gone all the way down to, I ran one with Rich Ryan, and in a half marathon, I would be 30 to 45 seconds per mile slower than him. And in every case, we both crossed that finish line spent.
So this is not a problem whatsoever, Michael. In fact, I encourage it. The key when your partner and you have a discrepancy, a notable discrepancy anywhere, is you fellas got to get together and you got to put some time in together, running through this together to understand the ebb flow and how this thing's really going to shake out.
Yep.
How behind are you really on your run? Well, if this dude, your wife's boss's husband, can sell out on the ski erg to start and he's already behind the 8 ball and now you can run together the rest of the race for all I know. Yeah. Or you got to just figure it out. So in this case, this is the most important case in which you need to sim. And even if it's not at 100% effort, you need to sim together. You need to figure out where the give and take is and say, okay, now we have our best plan for us. I actually think more like fitness to humans, the need to sim is much less, believe it or not. It's like,
you just trade off the whole time.
Do our thing. Right. Yep. And so in this case, as long as you do that, everybody's going to be done happy. That's what I think.
Generally, the starting point is that the strongest partner, if there's a significant difference, just starts and finishes the stations. And that evens out your running almost immediately.
Yeah.
We even saw it in the World Championships this weekend. I don't know if you watched or last weekend. Did you watch the men's pro doubles?
Hmm.
Tim Vinish, who won the men's world championship, was with a partner who could not run with him. And Tim ended up rowing 750 meters.
Yeah.
That's how you even it out. And then
Not
his
many could
partner
run
was
with
able
Tim.
to hammer at the end. What'd you say?
Not many could run with Tim. That's why he was a
No.
champ. He looked so good. Did he
Oh,
not look just so good?
no, he
Um,
looked like someone who got it all right.
it all came together when it needed to come together.
That's what it looks like.
It was a beautiful thing. He was like the one guy that wasn't getting damaged by anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We got 4 questions left, and we are getting these done because then my folder's empty and I can feel so good about it.
There's no better way to enter race weekend than nothing hanging over your head.
Nothing. Todd says, most explanations of how to taper for a race seem to be one size fits all. But what, if any, would be the difference for a high mileage versus high mileage volume athlete versus a lower mileage volume athlete when tapering? Or is it as simple as everyone should roughly cut the same amount? Thanks ahead of time. Another good. These are great questions. These are like, and very applicable to many people. I feel like these questions.
My personal belief is that building volume and reducing volume are the 2 most difficult things any athlete can do in terms of nailing it. I think it is way more nuanced than any running book wants to give it credit for. People want to apply a 10% rule or reduce 25%, then 40, those are all jumping off points. But in general, the higher volume you are, the bigger the taper you need. The lower volume you are, the less of a taper you need. That's my jumping off point.
Yeah. That's tough because I feel like the higher mileage athlete taper is probably a more predictable result. And the lower mileage athlete taper or lead in can sometimes be like, I nailed it. And then the next race, I didn't have it sometimes. If there's a less, do you understand what I'm saying? If there's like a less of a chunk being taken away from your time spent in training. For a lower mileage athlete, I think the key here is to almost train the same amount as you currently are in time, but changing what you do with that time. If you are a 20-mile a week runner, maybe the week of the race you have run 15-ish miles, but one of your runs has now been replaced with an easy elliptical. But you're still getting literally, if you looked at your Strava and time in the aerobic work capacity, it probably doesn't look very different. But what you've done with that time and how that time is spent, maybe you do 30 minutes of quality on Tuesday, while race week you do 15. And now one of your runs has become an incline hike. And so time spent the same, but you've deloaded in a different way. You can't afford to lose volume if you're going to race all year because you're not high to start with. And you can just freshen up enough that way to have a great race, but not lose fitness. And a true taper, when you're low mileage, like you're already riding that line, in my opinion, of like, am I earning enough fitness? So change what you're doing en route to race day, but I wouldn't change your volume much.
And I think the key thing is what you kept saying was race week. When you're low volume, you change race week. When you're
Just
high
race week.
volume, you change the weeks leading in. That's the biggest thing here. You do whatever you want race week. Cut volume in half. Great. Remove a quality session. Keep the quality sessions, but reduce the reps down a little bit. It's personal.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, low volume athletes generally nail the majority of their big workouts throughout their training build. And since you've nailed it the whole time, you don't have to change a lot to nail it on race day. High volume athletes oftentimes are dull in their workouts or nail some of them and not others. And you have to make it predictable that you will nail the race by reducing the noise, which is fatigue and volume. But yeah, for years I was a low volume and low mileage athlete. Race training weeks were like 32 miles a week in college, and race week was 24. That was like my most common 2 numbers: 32, 24.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'll be the lowest. I bet you if you look, I will average the lowest mileage of anybody in the men's elite field. I would almost guarantee it. The last 8 weeks. What do you think?
Barring anyone who's coming off an injury, yeah.
I'm a low mileage athlete for what I'm training for. And
And you raised it up.
yeah, I think it's 70-mile weeks flat. If I weren't doing vert, I think I'd be closer to 70 in 5
My
runs.
point is you are going to have to treat your taper like you were a higher volume athlete because you raised it up.
Correct. But just point being is, and that's high for me. I'm saying like I've been a
Yeah.
low volume athlete the majority of my career, and I wasn't pivoting with the amount of time I was spending when races came up. I was pivoting with what I was doing with that time. So,
Even when I was high-ish volume athlete, which again wasn't for me, but 60 to 70 miles per week with 5 to 10,000 feet of vert was my average training when I was doing this sincerely. If it was not an A race, I didn't change anything until Wednesday.
hmm.
For a B race, I would do my full everything, full quality Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I would recover a little bit more. My Thursday midweek long run would drop a little bit. And then Friday would be pre race. For a C race, nothing changed until Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So 60 to 70 miles per week. And I wasn't changing until Wednesday at the earliest, unless it was an A race. And that usually A race for me would still only start 9 days out
Yep.
at 60 to 70 miles per week. Not that I am the gold standard, but I believe this strong enough that I practiced it when it mattered for my family's income.
For the sake of getting through these next three, I'm going to the next one.
Okay.
Q&A time. Matt asks, I work at a local running store and my coworkers are real runners. For context, former Team USA runner with a 13:23 5K and a sub 4 miler, plus an
Oh,
Olympic marathon qualifier hopeful for the LA Olympics. They're also a coach for a high school track team. Last month, in talking to his athletes, he discovered they were taking creatine and he lost his mind over it, claiming that creatine was the obvious answer for the poor times they had been running. Now, the store drops the comment of creatine is bad for runners like a factual statement. Can you help me understand where the flaw in that logic stems from? The only thing I can find online is that it may compromise VO2 max, but the same report says that it is unclear if that's simply due to slight weight gain affecting the numbers associated with VO2 max. Please help me with this as I do Hyrox and Deca and take creatine regularly. Are they correct, or is this an outdated thought process?
all right. I'm going to throw a stranger under the bus. We don't, we don't often do this, but I'm going to. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you know about something, and doesn't mean that you're good at everything. So being a 13:25K runner means you're really, really darn good at running, but it doesn't mean you know a thing about the human body. And no, no one ever added or subtracted creatine and changed their life as a runner. Like I am noticeably better as a distance runner, or I am noticeably worse, unless creatine solved or exacerbated a pre-existing medical problem, which it would have a hard time doing outside of a few specific instances. So no, your high school, college, pro team could cycle on and off creatine, and you would not be able to tell in their race results what was happening. I firmly believe that.
I would guess this is stemming from like a body weight situation. Water retention is real. On creatine, you will retain, as a male my size, 3+ pounds of water. And I hate to say it, but I'm guessing this guy might be like, well, you're a high school runner and you don't pass the eye test already. And so why are you putting something in your body that would cause you to retain weight or something? I'm trying to figure out what his thought process would be, but I would solely think it has everything to do in this athlete slash coach's mind with just the scale being higher and that not being helpful. That would be my guess as to the lens, because scientifically, your ability to put out metabolically because of creatine, I don't know of a study that says it's going to decrease your ability to perform. So the only lens I can see this gentleman looking at it through is that. And if you're a Hyrox or Deca athlete and strength and power and size is helpful for many of the stations, you would so far from even come close to that line of thinking of this gentleman, that it wouldn't apply to you, even if what he said was fact, purely because it makes you retain water and you carry a little more weight around. So that was rambly, but I can't come up with another reason he would suggest that. Can you?
I can, unfortunately, and it's me assuming another negative thing about this individual I don't know. And
Okay.
that is that oftentimes high level runners do not know how to coach kids. Most people don't know how to work with kids. Kids are tricky. And high level runners do not always make good running coaches. and high level athletes in general, high performing humans have an ego. And when a reason to justify a poor performance that could reflect upon a high performing individual presents itself, oftentimes that individual will clamp onto it and say, "This is why this is happening." That's not a compliment I'm giving this person who I don't know, and I understand that. But yeah, my assumption is that they're seeing race performances that they think are not in line with how hard the team's been training. The team's overcooked, and they're glamping onto creatine as the magic fix to why my coaching's not working. So again, not super nice of me to say all these things, but I believe them. I would say if you don't have a moral reason not to take a supplement, there's only 2 reasons not to take creatine. 1, you don't want the water weight gain, or 2 is you don't want the creatine farts. Outside of that, I cannot point to a single reason you wouldn't want to, and there is compelling evidence coming out that long-term health benefits of it far outweigh anything any of our parents ever told us could go wrong with it,
Interesting
including
thing.
cognitive function later in life.
Interesting thing is my own personal bias is I don't like how I feel on it actually.
I
Like
feel bloated on it.
so I feel bloated on it. I feel sluggish, like actually kind of sleepy tired if I'm on like a big site. Like I feel a little dull. So I don't like how it makes me feel. So I would worry maybe again, I'm trying to play like the other side of this. I'd worry like, well, my own bias, if a high school athlete came to me and said, should I be on this? I'd be like, honestly, probably not worth it for what we're trying to accomplish. And my own personal bias is I don't really feel great on it.
Okay.
So, but I wouldn't be making the statements, of course, that it sounds like this gentleman had made. I just don't like how I feel on it, but I can't. That's not backed by any sort of science and statistical degradation of my run ability or my.
You also would race fine.
Correct. Right.
At
That's
rest,
what I'm
I
saying.
feel a little bloated.
Yeah.
While working out, I feel pretty darn good.
Like the man.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave that one alone. We have 2 more. Wait.
I'm
Just
not
2
leaving it alone.
What else?
If there's ever an entire team that's underperforming, it's either the culture or the coach. Okay. It's
Yeah.
not contagious. Fitness is not contagious.
No, you point the finger at anybody but yourself.
It's the culture or the coach, and the coach is responsible for both.
All right, this is from Janet. I coached Janet, and Janet went way out of her comfort zone and qualified for Hyrox Worlds in her age group,
Good job.
and went for it. Yep. And this is following that up, and I feel this question for her. I feel it. She asked a number of things about post race week, and I answered those. But the last question, I didn't expect her to ask this question. She says, this may actually be more of a TRP question. How do you know when a race is just not for you? Especially when there is no money on the line, when it's no fun. And then she says, at the end, by the way, I think my legs are stronger than they have been in years, so I'd like to continue the lunges and step up and sled work. I feel fit and strong. I made some mistakes and those sleds got me. Did I have a bad lane? Maybe, but I trained heavy and it still took too much out of me. Anyways. So I don't think enjoyed her experience very much. Okay. Is what we're getting at. She ran one race, qualified and got in and was like, I'm going to go do it. And now she did it. So when do you know when a race is not for you?
For the sake of time, I'm not going down every rabbit hole I want to, but I'm going to say one thing first. And that is the sleds at Hyrox World Championships this past weekend removed your ability to accurately take anything away from the race negatively.
Yeah, yes. 100%.
Because it changed everything after that point.
Depending
Athletes I worked with who have done this for years left unsure of what their last block of training really meant because the sleds were so different. And some of them were even successful out there, but the time meant nothing. Anyway, however, I also believe if you have to ask, you can't afford it for a lot of things in life. And this is one of those. Like if you have to ask the question, is this just not for me? I didn't enjoy it. Then that's a good enough reason not to do it because this isn't your job. We should enjoy this. Now, if you enjoyed your first Hyrox and not this, do not put any stock in this one. Do one more. But you can do the training that helped you without having to do the race. If you hate the race, we're choosing to do this.
I think Janet's feeling very strong, very fit, and I think she likes how it makes her feel in life. Yeah. Like I think this training, it's the best way. If you want to feel good, hybrid train, because you got to do it all and you feel strong and vibrant, often smashed. But anyways, I really think, unless you're winning or getting some sort of your performance warrants you continuing to show up and trying to like it if you don't like it, because it's just like, I have to keep doing this because I'm talented and I need to see it through. If that isn't you, the enjoyment piece is literally whether the enjoyment's before, during, or after. Maybe now, Janet, I don't know how you're feeling. You asked this question on Monday. It's Thursday. I don't know. Now that it's the dust is settled, are you already itchy to get back and the possibility of righting your wrongs excites you? But the enjoyment piece, like if you didn't have fun before, during, and you're still like, that sucked, well, don't go back. That's ridiculous. Put your efforts on what fills your cup. And I do believe that people who are good at something but don't really enjoy it should stick around and see if that love can grow, because I think it's tough to see talent wasted, and wondering is always crappy as well. So I think there's a place if you are a winner, like literally like you are a top 15 elite potential, but you like hate it, maybe see if it comes around. But if you're not, don't. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
I'm glad you said before, during, or after, because most of the races we run, we spend a vast majority of the time doing it, not really liking
Yeah.
why do we do this? This sucks. I don't know why. But before, at a part during, and certainly after, we're glad we do it. If you don't have that, again, this isn't your job. This should add to your life.
I'll have to follow up with Janet and see if where she's at as of today.
Also, if you qualified in your first race, I'd like to see you try at least one more.
She's a
You're a
super
monster.
BA. Yeah. All right. Last question from Hunter. Hunter says, "Hey, Kirk, I wanted to ask a question per the convo y'all had with Chris on the podcast, which was last week's episode. I'm wondering what the best way is to change body comp for running. I played team sports growing up and got into bodybuilding and later CrossFit. I'm not a huge guy by any means, but I am big for a runner. I'm 6'2" and 190 pounds. I'm wondering what the best way is to try and change my body comp for performance. I'm sure laying off the heavy weights would help and putting in more mileage or cross training would help. But would you change anything nutritionally? I think if I could lean out some and lighten up, I might be faster." The age old.
Mm-hmm. There are two answers to this. I'm going to take the easy, non-technical answer,
Okay.
which is raise your running volume up a little bit, drop your lifting volume down a little bit, and see what happens. Just do it for a while, melt it away ounce by ounce. Let the training slim you down, not that you're not slim, and let the reduction in weight training melt away a little bit of the extra muscle you don't need. There's a different way of doing this, but it's not my favorite subject, and it's not my knowledge base. So I'm going to let Kirk handle that.
Oh, Hunter. I need to know. I need to. Gosh, this is bad. I need to see the eye test. I need to put some skin calipers on you. I need to know if your 190 pounds is you're lean and mean and jacked, or if your 190 pounds is composed of weight that might serve you better if it weren't there. You understand what I'm getting at? I think if you are 190 pounds and 6'2" and you are lean and you're not carrying a bunch of fluff, is very different than if you're 190 pounds, but you got a beer belly and you're carrying stuff that isn't serving you. I mean, it really makes a difference. The stats on paper mean nothing to me. It's what is that 190 pounds made of, right?
Right.
So that matters the most to me. And I'm not going to ask a guy who's 190 pounds, but 4% body fat to try to diet. Are you kidding me? I'm going to send them down to walk the plank. Not a chance. Why don't you just increase your run volume and decrease your strength, just like you said? And you're probably going to happen naturally, and you're not going to sacrifice on the way. If you're 190 pounds and you're fluffy, we'll call it, or whatever term you want to use, maybe there's an argument to be made to start counting your macros or increase your volume or something, with that being your main objective. But it all comes down to me to what your composition is. Is it good lean? Then I'm taking a very different approach than if it's pudge. I mean, that's the big thing.
The fact of the matter is, it's really difficult to lose weight without going into a deficit. But the reality is,
it is impossible.
The reality is, you can see good body composition changes by simply cutting out surplus. So my hope for everyone who wants to lose weight is you're drinking 12 sodas a day and eating ice cream at night and snacking on chocolate all day, because you can simply just keep hitting your calories and remove the bad sugar. and you're going to see some benefits. So yeah, you're going to have a deficit of some sort to lose weight, but at the same time, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit you can address first. My guess though is if he's a power lifter and he was into bodybuilding, bodybuilders understand macros.
Mhm.
So it might have to be a volume increase, and what the thing that every bodybuilder hates, a reduction in lifting frequency.
If you're already lean, don't do it quick. Like the
Yeah.
slow road is just like a pound a month might leave you just because of training volume and output and a little less lifting like that. The long and slow approach, if you're already lean, is the only approach.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're done. I'm telling you, your workouts are going to suck. You're going to feel terrible. It's going to go really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
You know,
And I want to drive in on that. The chance of it going bad is high enough that we need to all understand that no one ever got life-changingly faster by dropping a light to moderate amount of weight. Is there speed to be had by being lighter? Unfortunately, the answer is yes, there is. Is it going to change your life as a person? No, it's not. Can going into a deficit and falling off the cliff change your life as a person? Yes, it absolutely can and will. And that can last a whole lot longer than your PR happiness will last. And we
yeah.
need to go into this process with a firm understanding of that. There's not minutes to be waiting for pounds, but there's years off your life.
Yeah, and Hunter, this is more like a consult call question personally because we have to know more, right? Like
Right.
to dive into it. It's not my favorite subject either, but I mean, there are really good international distance runners. There's a handful, anyways, that are 6'2" and 170 or 80 pounds. Like there's just a few, but there's some
Yeah.
that are making it work in the 5K that are carrying more than the traditional runner would carry. And it's good weight and they're one with their body and they're very fit and they're very fast. So you don't have to be a string bean to run fast. That's for sure. But it's a fair question. We all ask it. Like I ask myself that question every single day. If I were lighter, would I be faster? And for me, the answer
Yeah.
would be yes. So it is what it is, brother.
Yeah. How much fat? I'm curious. How much faster do you think you'd be in a 5K if you were 10 pounds lighter?
I think I'd get 10 seconds a mile.
And I think that would be an extraordinary amount of time to gain.
5 to 10 seconds a mile. I think 10 pounds is a lot. That's a lot of weight.
10 pounds is a lot, but
Yeah.
also 10 seconds per mile, just for everyone out there to start weighing the pros and cons. It takes you from what?
Gets me sub 15.
15 to 14:45. And that's very satisfying.
Yeah.
And it still would not win high school girls nationals.
14:45? Yes, it would.
Maybe on a track, you two would be together with 600 to go.
So terrifying. What is
Anyways,
going on
point
in this
being,
world?
there's not a life-changing time drop waiting. There is time, and that's why people get caught in this. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not going pro if I drop 10 pounds. I'll tell you that.
No.
All right. Well, it is time to wrap this thing up. I feel so good with this folder empty, Brakken. So we're good, baby.
Kirk, I wish you could bring all of our energy out there on the marathon with you. You can't, but just know that you and we have so many people in your corner right now. And if we can do anything at like mile 20 or 22 that just allows you to either bite down harder or that one little twinge not to turn into a cramp, just know we're doing it.
All right. Which mile? Give me a mile and I'll think about it at that mile.
22.
22. All right. I'll think about you people out there listening at mile 22. See if it inspires me. Keeps me honest.
Is it 22 to 24 that are slightly uphill?
Yeah, there's a notable hill somewhere in that because I ran that in the half course last year. It's somewhere in there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, there's a notable one that hits at the wrong time, we will say. Yeah.
Yep. That's where we're going to be waiting.
All right. I'll see you at the top. Hanson, you remember, I'll see you at the top of the hill. Hanson was 600 meters out. That's unfortunately too close to the finish line to do any real work in a marathon.
We'll
All right,
guys.
guys. Thanks, man. Thanks for listening, guys.